No, it's gone. It's gone.
Okay, we've got 60 people so far. So we'll just wait a little bit longer. There'll probably be a few more trickling in. We don't want to play that little piece again because I think everybody's heard it enough by now.
Al, are you the host?
I am. Who's that talking? Is that Mike? Right, it's exactly 7 o'clock and we've got 67 people so far. We did have 100 who registered, so I think we will still get a few more. So if you can just be a bit patient for the next few minutes, we'll wait till about 5 past, and then we can get the meeting going.
Yep. Please, may I request that everybody put their mics on mute unless they would like to ask questions, because there's a lot of background noise in the background.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good.
And hello, everyone.
Okay, somebody asked if we'll be sharing the recording.
Hi, Belinda. Hello, Scotty.
74 now, so we're getting there. I don't know what the stats are like in terms of how many people who've registered actually attend the meeting, but I would imagine it's probably like about 80 or 90%. $75, $76.
Hi, Ellen. Hi, Belinda.
Hi,
yeah.
Okay.
Just letting you know.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Jolene.
I'll put on my video when we start.
I think we can start pretty soon. Should start. Okay, we're going to start the meeting now. We've already got 82 people, and the others will trickle in while we start the meeting. So yeah, I just want to say good evening to everybody, and welcome, of course, the Central Region members. We're going to probably have most of the people in attendance will be from the Central Region. But I know that there are also, fortunately, some from the other regions, which is also great. It helps to boost the numbers and make it a more meaningful meeting. There were, as I said earlier, there were 100 registrations, which is very heartening. And it just shows that people have a thirst for getting up to date with what's going on in SACFA, what's going on with the new medications. I'll just explain briefly the way we're going to run the meeting. There'll be no mics or videos once the meeting has started, except, of course, for the speakers. Then you post your questions throughout the whole meeting. You may post your questions in the text box, and we will be going through those questions, and we would respond to the relevant questions at the end of the meeting. The meetings will obviously be directed to doctors or to committee members or the appropriate person who would be in a position to meaningfully answer that question. I have a moderator beside me here, Claire Ems, who will just ensure that the mics and the videos are off or whatever needs to be sorted out on that side. And then also to sort through all the questions that are coming through, so that at the end, when we do field the questions, we pick up duplications and things like that, and hopefully it's not going to take too long. At this stage, I just want to say there were apologies from 3 people: Gray van der Hof, Dr. Kathy Baird, and Matt Kaiser. Those were the 3 apologies that I received. I'm now going to start my presentation, which shouldn't take too long. Okay,
That'll just stay there.
is that okay? Okay. All right. So this is the Central Region AGM for 2021. Okay, the agenda is going to be the Chairman's report and finances. Then we will do the election of the Management Committee for what's left of this year and for next year. And then polls to better understand our numbers. That's just a little bit of a fun thing that...
Sorry, it's not showing on my screen. You shared the screen properly. Maybe just try again. Sorry, technical error. Your screen share is paused. I don't know how to unpause it. Maybe just stop screen share again.
No, sorry, it's just...
All right, everyone, welcome back. Good to see you again, Penny. Good to be.
Yours. Okay, it seems to be working now.
Okay. There we go.
No, now it says screen sharing is paused.
Just click this, maybe. Resume share.
But as soon as I put it onto the actual slide...
I don't know why it's doing that. Sorry, everyone. I've just got some technical difficulties. Just resume share again. See
What about a new share?
yeah, maybe. Maybe it's because I'm sharing. I don't think so.
Let me suggest.
Ellen, did you click slideshow on top?
Where do you have to do something on that?
It's on the top bar. You'll see insert design transitions slideshow. On the top bar.
Why
No, further up. And you'll see there it says.
I actually can't see it either. Sorry, Belinda.
Okay, where it says home, yeah, where it says home,
Home?
then next to it, it says insert, design, transitions,
Oh, yeah,
animation. Next one, slideshow.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what it is.
So go to slideshow.
What do I go to? Transitions?
No, slideshow.
Slideshow,
there it
okay,
is, there it
slideshow,
is.
sorry.
Okay.
Click on it. And from beginning.
Maybe that will be better. Thanks, Belinda. If that's Belinda.
That's basically how it shows, is it? Or,
Let's see if that works now.
or can I get it to show the full? No, it doesn't want
I
to show
think
it
that's
again.
why it doesn't. I think you
Okay.
just got to click there. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just have to just do it like that. Sorry, everybody. This is teething problems. Okay, so let's let's start again. Okay, so this is our AGM for 2021, and I've got it. Okay. Sorry. All right. Yes, so just to go through your agenda again, the chairman's report and finances, then we'll have the election of the management committee. We'll have a poll just for a bit of fun and a bit of audience participation, and to understand our members better as to what their needs are and what their thoughts are. Then we will have Professor Marco Zampoli, who will explain to us where we are with the CF patient registry, which is a very, very exciting and necessary project. And also he will tell us about progress in gaining access to CFTR modulators, which are the latest drugs. And then we will move on to questions and general. Okay, right. What I want to start with, just because I think a lot of people are not familiar with the not familiar with the actual structures of SACFA. What you've got is you've got the SACFA national body, which is at the top. That is our national association, and under that you get your medical committees. So that would be MSAC, which is your main medical committee, and then you've got your Cystic Fibrosis New Frontiers Committee, which has been looking at access to the new drugs, and then we've got our registry SteerCo, which is the group of doctors that actually steer that registry in the right direction. Then, just to explain to you how SACFA comes about, it's really made up of all the regions. There's representation from Central Region, KZN, and Cape. That makes up your SACFA executive and your SACFA committee, and that's what keeps SACFA running. Then we've recently introduced something called cluster groups, and one of the main reasons why we did this was because with social media, you find that it's very difficult to work in silos, in regions, so everything gets sort of nationalized. So what we've done there is we've created the SACFA social media group, and the SACFA social media group is supposed to be made up of people from the different regions, and then we do the social media activities on a national basis. I think it's important to mention an organization called Rare Diseases. They're very big. They represent a large number of rare diseases. And the reason why we've now become a full member of Rare Diseases is because of their sheer size. They do have a lot of resources. So we were able to leverage off Rare Diseases in terms of advocacy. They're helping us with that. And then on social media, we also leveraging off the Rare Diseases support platform on WhatsApp. If I can just remind people to mute their mics, because I notice there's a little bit of background noise. Now we move on to the actual report for 20 and 21. Let me just get this right. I'm going to start off by talking about the pediatric state clinics in the central region. And when I talk about CMJAH, that's the Charlotte Maseka Johannesburg Adult Hospital, which I'll just call CM. So at CM, the association has been funding a social worker and a dietitian, which has turned out to be very beneficial. A very important event was the retirement of Dr. Klugman in May 2020. It was a very sad moment. Dr. Klugman did such good work for the pediatric clinic, and she had to move on because when retirement comes, they just say, well, sorry, you can't stay on, you've got to go. So that was it. There's been a lot of things happening. There was fire damage at CM as well. That started in April and went on to August 2021. At that time, medicines were then dispensed from Nelson Mandela, and there was a lot of misunderstandings, and it was, very difficult for the patients attending the state hospitals. Just moving on to SBAH, which is the Steve Biko Academic Hospital. The association has limited involvement there at the moment, and that's mainly because no committee members from Pretoria are actually on the committee, so that makes it very difficult for us to know what's happening there. Okay, moving on to the adult state clinic. This is also at Charlotte Maseka. The central region has over a long period of time funded 2 specialist CF doctors at CM Adult Outpatient Clinic, and that continued until November 2020. That clinic enabled outpatients with limited or no medical aid packages to get proper treatment at a specialist CF clinic. And unfortunately, the outpatient clinic was forced to close at the end of November 2020. And the main reason for that was due to COVID impact on SACFA Central Region funding. And I'll show you the numbers a little bit further on. So unfortunately, after 7 years of dedication by Dr. Baird, Dr. Goos, Sister Furlonger, and with financial support from SACFA Central Region, we were forced to actually close that clinic. And some people said, well, if we can get the money, we can raise lots of money, we can restart that clinic. But the problem is it was such a job getting that clinic up and running because of the red tape and everything at the hospital, that it's not just a case of they turned off the tap and you can turn it on again. So it was much more complicated than that. So we're at a situation where I would say it's highly unlikely that we will have anything happening again with getting that clinic started again. Moving on to the achievements on the, sorry, I was just wondering if I missed a slide there. Oh, yes. Sorry, I did miss a slide. The Johannesburg Adult Inpatient Ward, that's 496, that closed in April 2021 due to that serious fire damage that I spoke about just now, which affected the PEDS clinic. Outpatient care at that time was provided at the Helen Joseph, and inpatient care was provided mainly at the Steve Biko Academic Hospital. That was for 5 months. So that also was a very difficult time for the state patients. The Charlotte Maseka reopened in September 21, but Ward 496, which is the old respiratory ward, which was run by Sister Furlonger, is still closed, and they're saying it's going to be closed for many, many years to come. And that just gives an idea of the extent of the damage that took place. I just want to go through very quickly the annual events that we...
You just missed that one.
I didn't miss... Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yep. Sorry, I missed the achievements over the last year or so. The social media team, which is basically when I spoke about earlier, it really is a SACFA social media team. They've done some fantastic work. That's Kim, Katja, Claire, Jolene, and Belinda. We now have 1,100 followers on the SACFA Facebook page. We have 616 members on SACFA support group. We have increased activity on Instagram and LinkedIn, and increased activity on the website blog. The there was a WhatsApp group that has been put together, and that's only for announcements. We've got 286 people there at the moment. And we put all the announcements about meetings and happenings onto that WhatsApp group. So I encourage people to join that group. And I think you can join by going to our website, and it will give you some directions on how to join. Coffee with Parents started in May 2021. This was to meet the need of CF parents who feel very much alone, and they need support in various areas. So we try and cover different aspects, and we have guest speakers, and we have discussions, and it's actually proved to be very successful, and we will continue with that. Then in terms of the SACFA website, we did a big review earlier this year, and I must thank Derek Brewer and also Lene as well, who put in a lot on the changes to the website. It's completely revamped. And I think the feedback we got from people was that it was really some very good stuff that we put in there, and it's a very much easier website to go through. And I want to also thank Greta Roots, who's a CF parent. She did an initial review to give us some ideas on what we could change. So that helped us a lot and spurred us on to make the change. We also did rationalization of our support group structures, and that there you can see all the details about that on the actual website. Okay. All right, just briefly going through the annual events which we normally have when there's no COVID around. We have a golf day in November. We look for players, prizes, and auction items and sponsors. We enter a team which we call Cycling for CF. This is for the 947 cycle race. We need cyclists for our team, obviously, and then also we need people to take part in the fundraising by way of give and gain. CF Genes Day, it doesn't raise a lot of money, but it does create, I think, a lot of awareness. And there we try and get companies, schools, and individuals to take part. They buy stickers, they wear jeans, and when you buy a sticker, you give 10 Rand or whatever the price is going to be going forward. So that is a very nice way of creating awareness and also getting a little bit of money in. Just continuing with annual events, there's a team entered in the 702 Walk the Talk. That's traditionally been done by Neil and Poonan over the years. And I think it has just been disrupted a bit by the recent COVID story. We try and do a charity fundraiser every year, but it doesn't always work out. It depends on whether we can get a good idea or a good concept to put together a charity fundraiser. Walk, Ride and Run. This was a very successful one, which was really driven a lot by Tanya Koorts. It was a virtual 6.5 kilometer event. It went down very well during the COVID time. And it was agreed that the funds on that would go basically to SACFA national body, to promote SACFA, to do anything that's to do with the good of South Africa as a whole and the CF community. We did several online contests, quizzes and raffles, which proved to be very successful. Okay, right, now we'll move to the rather sad part of the meeting, I think, the finances for the past 2 years. If you look at the year ending March 2020, already we were having some problems. Okay, income was 307,000 and expenses were 417. And it's always been the problem is expenses, because we have to pay the salaries for the doctors, which I mentioned earlier at the adult clinic. That's 358 over there. So we had this amount that we had to pay every year, which is actually quite a commitment. And we did speak to the powers that be at the hospital that they weren't prepared to come to the party. They weren't prepared to assist us in creating a dedicated CF clinic for the adults. So we just continued going on. But I did know that at some point, it was not going to be sustainable, and that's really what happened. The year ending March 2020 was not the greatest year. Like our golf day was probably half of what we normally do, because the numbers were down. Our cycling for CF was also down. So all of our fundraising, except for donations, was down quite a bit. So we suffered there. And then, of course, along came COVID, and COVID really crippled us when it came to the year ending March 2021. So the funds from 307 went down to 156,000. You can see there that the expenses did drop off because we had to say to the doctors, the clinic has to be closed, and we reached an agreement with the doctors, and they said yes, they agree. We can't continue with that with COVID and everything, and the clinic was closed. So you can see that our equity March 2020 was 235,000. March 2021 was down to 84. So yeah, we're a little bit better off at the moment, but things have been tough. Okay. Yeah, then I just want to give acknowledgements to the committee members. They've done a great job during the year, raising funds, raising awareness, and also to active association members who assist and support our events. They might not be on the committee, but they support us all the time. And then also all our doctors and support staff for your amazing dedication. It's fantastic what you do. That then, let's see, what we'll move now to the election of the management committee. When I sent out the invite for this, excuse me, when I sent out the invite for the meeting, I did call for nominations, but actually these were the only nominations that we did receive. We've got Kim Kaiser, who is has been nominated as chairperson. We've got Tanya Kurtz has been nominated as secretary and also to take care of support. Jolene Duplessis, social media. Belinda Nell, advocacy. Claire M, social media. Candice Baitendorf, events. Dave Richard is being a doctor, a CF doctor. He's on the medical side. Ndumisa Nkube, he provides support. Matthew Kaiser helps in terms of IT support, and Katja Ludovic, even though not in South Africa anymore, will still assist with the social media. So, and I think I just stress at the top there, it's 100% volunteers. There's no full-time jobs. No, sorry, 100% volunteers who have full-time jobs. None of these people get paid for the job they do. I need to mention that I was the chairperson of Central Region, but I've decided to step down now. But I will still be involved as chairperson of SACFA, which is the national structure. So at this point, I just want to put it out there. Is everybody happy with the nominations, that we can take these people as being nominated to the committee and elected to the committee? Are there any messages, Claire?
Can you maybe ask everyone just to do like a thumbs up or a
if people could just do like a thumbs up if they're okay with this committee as it stands.
Thumbs ups are coming through.
Yeah, this is a little bit difficult, this part of the meeting, but I don't see, are there any messages there, Claire?
Looks like everybody's happy.
Okay.
I'll just give it a few.
I think we're getting the general feel that everybody is comfortable with the committee there. Probably most of you don't know the people anyway. Okay, so let me then move on to the guest speaker. This is probably what you probably didn't come here to listen to me talking all this boring stuff. This is the interesting part of the meeting. Our guest speaker, Professor Marco Zampoli, a really great person and a great doctor. And he's, just to give a brief detail on Marco, he's the associate professor of Paediatric Pulmonology at the Red Cross Children's Hospital, UCT. It's a very well-known hospital in Cape area. And then he's a national coordinator of the CF Registry. He's done an immense amount of work on the CF Registry, and we really do thank him for that. I think he's really got that project off the ground. He's also chair of the MSAC committee, which is our medical advisory committee, and he's chair of the Cystic Fibrosis New Frontiers committee. So I think what I will do now is I will hand over to well, no, hold on, we're going to do the poll first, aren't we?
Yeah, let's do that.
We are going to do a poll, which will, I think, give Marco a little bit of time to get his presentation ready. So what let me just...
I think stop share and then
stop share.
Poll.
Okay.
see.
So there's Marco there. We're just going to do the poll quickly, Marco. I know you might be ready already, but if you're not, you've got a little bit of time to get your ducks in a row. What we're going to do is we're going to do a quick poll. There's only 4 questions. Question 2, I just want to note that question 2, it asks whether you would favor a single united CF association for South Africa. Effectively, what we're talking about there is, would you support, at the moment we've got 3 regional associations, and we've also got the national association, so we've got 4. So it's what we're saying is, would you support reducing it from 4 to 1? So that's that question, just to clarify what we meant by that. Then question 4 is social media channels. There you can do multiple answers. You don't have to just put one answer, because you might use WhatsApp and you might also use Facebook as well. So I'm going to put the poll out there for you I'm going to launch the poll and you can answer the questions. Do I have to scroll it down or not?
I think everybody can do it themselves.
do
Maybe
it.
just ask if everybody's okay. If anyone's got problems, they can add it to the chat.
I'm hoping that everybody can just scroll down from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. If not, you can shout.
It looks like it's going fine. Yeah.
I think it's just us. I think that's enough time.
It's still saying 80%. Let's just give it 2 minutes. Do you want to just move quick so you can ask me?
Okay. Hold on, just. I'm going to end the poll now. So I think people have had enough time there. And I'll just briefly tell you the results of the poll, which are quite interesting.
You can share as well. Click share results.
Share results, yeah, share results. Okay, I'll share the results. So it's quite surprising that Gauteng is only 48% of the meeting. Western Cape is 30% and KZN is 14%. So we actually have got quite a lot of people from the other regions, which is interesting. Not much from the smaller regions, a little bit. Then in terms of, do you support a single united CF association for South Africa? There we have 92% favoring one united association. So that is interesting. Ultimately, it's up to the regions and of course the public at large to decide on that. Link, what is your link to CF? Mostly it's a family member with CF. That's interesting, 69%. And then in terms of the information, where people obtain information, it looks like Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. Those are the main ones. Email. So there's quite a spread there. Okay, I think we can put those results out as well on our Facebook page and various other channels. So, okay. Where are we now? Marco. Where's Marco?
There we go.
Hi, Ellen. Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Let me just share. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see it very clearly.
Okay, great. So can I fire away?
Yes,
Okay.
you may fire away.
All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you to Alan and organizers for the invitation to share this information with you who are part owners of this information that we've gathered through the registry. It's been a huge collective effort, and I'm very proud of what we've achieved as a community. And secondly, also, I'm sure that everyone will be interested to hear some news of what's happening with new treatments. And I'll just perhaps summarize where we are with that and leave it, and we can then discuss the way forward. So really what I will discuss, what I'd like to share with you is really with the registry, share some highlights of the registry and share what kind of information we are learning, and really how do we compare to other parts of the world. And the registry is starting to give us some a window into that kind of comparison. And we'll discuss the treatments, how we can improve care and treatments. You will all know, this is a lovely graph that I think is shown all over the world, where it plots the average survival age of people with CF from 1930s, which is this red line, right up into 2015, and average age. And with each step, the different interventions and what new treatments that have been introduced. Bearing in mind the CF gene was only identified in 1990. So you can see even before that, we have achieved remarkable achievements in improved care and treatment. Even this is all way before modulator treatment was on the scene. So huge advancements have been made before we even start talking about modulator treatment, and it continues to rise. So what will we do? What did we know about CF in South Africa? There is some information where we know that the carrier frequency, in other words, anyone who carries one copy of a CF gene without being affected, depends very much on your racial background. Amongst white South Africans, it's 1 in 27 people, so it's quite a high number by world standards. What we don't know amongst sort of mixed race people, it's about 1 in 60, and amongst Black Africans is a huge unknown, but it's less common, but about 1 in 90. By these calculations, we estimate there should be about, for every 3,000 babies born, 1 with CF in the white populations, for about every 10,000 in mixed race. And amongst Black Africans, we simply don't know. And I share these figures because when we look at what our registry numbers are, we can see that we're, based on these estimates, it's far, far below one than what we expect. And before 2018, we really had no idea how many people were living with CF in South Africa, and we had no data on outcomes or how people were doing and how in trends in our healthcare. So the CF registry was launched in 2018, and this has been a public-private partnership initiative. So it's from public sector and the private sector. It was, I've listed here all the clinics, state hospitals, clinics that are participating. And so if you are receiving care in at one of these doctors or one of these clinics, you will most likely have been approached to be included in the registry, and your data hasn't been included. And the way the registry is set up, for those who don't know, is we have myself as the national director. We have all the participating clinics and doctors who have agreed to come on board. We have 2 data collectors, one in the Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and one in the Central Gauteng and KZN region, who travel to your doctors, to your clinics once a year, go through your records, and we capture the information updated once a year. And of course we do this, and this is the information that we are collecting, which is standard registry information. It's about the diagnosis of CF, when it occurred, to what age, what are the genetics, sweat tests, and all those details around the diagnosis. And then every year we update various things. And this is how many visits you attended, whether you're in the public or private sector. We look at parent education, income. It's a very difficult thing to measure family income. But for example, if you're receiving a government grant, certainly that information is useful. As far as your health goes, we look at your lung function. So we choose the best lung function for the year. And that's from about children 6 years and older, and as well as weight. We document all the infections that you've had in the sputum, you know, for whatever has been recorded in the medical records, any complications such as liver disease or diabetes, treatments that you're on, both for the chronics as well as short-term treatments, like how many courses of IVs have occurred. Where that information is available, which is pertinent to adults, is issues around fertility, which is an important issue for adults. And of course, we also document any deaths and any transplants that have occurred. And this we've been doing once a year and updating it. This, of course, is with your kind consent. And we have certainly made a concerted effort to ensure that we get everyone's consent. The information is entered is completely anonymous, so it's not shared with anyone except researchers or people. And part of the consent is we do ask for permission to share information anonymously with international researchers whenever there is a need. So what's happened now, and I'm pleased to report that we've just in the final process, we had the first registry report of 2018, and we've just now finalized the registry report for 2019 and 20. We've combined the 2 years because of the delays of COVID, and it didn't make sense to publish two separate reports in one. And this is just a summary page that I'd like to just share with you. And this is sort of the information that we're getting. We can see we've looked at the 3 years. So in 2018, we had 475 people who were entered into the registry. And at the end of 2020, we had increased that number to 525. So great effort. This is by no means all a very comprehensive list of people with CF in South Africa. There are still people who are not, for example, who are not receiving regular care by one of the recognized CF doctors or clinics that are participating in the registry. It's very difficult for us to access that information, their medical records, if it's not concentrated in certain areas. And it's certainly a way I hope to encourage people to at least register with one of the participating sites. You can see the proportion of adults and children, slightly more children than adults. We had, in terms of new diagnoses, 2018, 2019 was sort of a steady, almost 30 per year. And in 2020, 11. And I'm sure that's because of COVID, and who knows how many diagnoses have been missed during that year. So this is sort of information that is useful for us. We've recorded a number of people who've had lung transplants, as well as sadly people who have died. And also in 2020, we've been tracking COVID cases, and up to 2020, we had 11 confirmed cases. And in 2021, there was, after the third wave, those numbers tripled. And I'll share some of that information later. And as you can see here, we're looking at lung function and proportion of people. These color bars to give you an idea. With the yellow are people with lung function less than 40%, and plotted according to age. So of course, we expect more adults with lower lung function here and very few children, but it gives you the sort of spread of the lung function. And I think more importantly, what we need to start documenting is how many people are eligible for modulated treatment based on their genetics. And you can see here, very high proportion, almost 86%, and how many are actually getting it. And I think this is going to become a key marker to track. These registry reports will be published online on the SACFA website, freely available to anyone. So this just gives you a summary of some of the additional data, a distribution map of where are people receiving care. So this map is not where people live, but this is a map of where people are receiving CF care in South Africa. As our poll sort of shows that we can see that majority are either in the Western Cape and Gauteng, with KZN, Eastern Cape, and we recently very pleased to include the Free State. We've added now, although a few people having come on board as well. If you look at some simple stats like racial distribution, we can see in South Africa, people with CF, just over 2/3 are white, about 20% mixed race, 10% Black Africans, and very few. So majority are still white people, but the number of, for example, Black Africans that are being diagnosed is definitely increasing at a younger age. So this is, as I mentioned, I shared before, what if you look at lung function, and I just selected this graph to show you we compare the difference between people who have medical aid versus those who don't, which is this graph. And although you can see the slight differences, these are not meaningful differences, which is reassuring for people who feel they're getting inferior care at public sector, that the results don't seem to prove that, show that, which is reassuring for us as well, that we're still maintaining similar standards of care are still good, comparably good. I also wanted to share this. This is some data we looked at comparing when we plot lung function and nutrition, and these was from 2018 from my first registry report. And it's just to emphasize, to show that the strong relationship between nutrition and lung function. So this is a graph on the up to the left here. You see lung function, and on the bottom line is nutrition. And there's a clear relationship that the lower your nutrition, the lower your lung function. They're interlinked, and so nutrition is a very important thing that perhaps is not given the attention that it deserves, and it's something that we can focus on. So where are we, and how can we improve? And for me, the really important thing is we need to first get the basics right. And some of what I mean by that, and from what we can see in the registry, is some of the things that are themes that are emerging include diagnosis. We need to aim to diagnose CF earlier. The average age of diagnosis in South Africa is 7 months. That's average. So some are less than that, and some are more. Just over half are diagnosed under 1 year of age. It means just under half are diagnosed later than 1 year of age. And there's very much evidence to say that the later you diagnose, the worse the long-term outlook may be. So really what we should be aiming for as the next frontier is to doing newborn screening, which is becoming standard practice worldwide, in testing for CF in every newborn child that's born, along with other sort of genetic diseases. We need more frequency, increase the frequency of routine doctor and clinic visits, including measurements of weight, lung function, sputum tests, etc. Not only when people are sick. Based on the stats from our registry, we know we can deduce that 50% of people had 3 or fewer visits per year. And this is even before COVID. And this is much, much lower than what international standards would recommend. And so this is an area, it's difficult now with COVID. There's the whole role of telemedicine has exploded. Visits doesn't need to necessarily be everyone in person, but we need to think creatively out of the box of how do we negotiate routine medical consultations going forward in the age of telemedicine. As I mentioned before, nutrition is, I think this is South Africa, we are not performing very well. We should aim to achieve normal weight and growth, and treat weight loss or poor weight gain more seriously. based on the registry information, 7% of children and almost 20% of adults can be regarded as severely malnourished. And that has an impact on overall health, lung function, and everything. And nutrition is something that can be treated more aggressively. We need to treat infections like Pseudomonas and MRSA correctly, according to guidelines, and really encourage a multidisciplinary care by CF experts or clinics. So these are some from what I take out of the data from the registry, which I think we can implement now and encourage now. I just want to share the slides. This is a slide I've taken from the US CF Foundation Registry report from 2020. So most countries in that produce an annual report. And this is a slide looking at two things. The top one is the number of visits average visits, consultations for children under 1 year of age after diagnosis at birth. You can see here on average, the majority of people, 50%, 60% at least, had 9 visits on average per year. This is before they were even 1 year age. Similarly, how many swabs or sputum samples were taken in the same time before 1 year of age? You can see up to 70% had 6, and many of them many more. So these are the sort of standards of care that are being implemented internationally, and especially in very young children after birth, which is important because I think this is what sets the trajectory for the future. And if you look at what registry, this is also data information that was obtained from the US registry, looking at lung function trajectories across age groups over time periods. Just to sort of orientate you, the red line here, this is lung function in percentage from 60 to 100, and this is at different ages and people's ages and on average. The red line at the bottom is the period 1986 to 1990, and you could see the trends in lung function with increasing age. Each subsequent 5-year period until the blue one, which was 2006 to 2010, you can see at the best lung function. But what you see, this increase, the difference that's made is not what happens later in life, it's before children are even 6 years of age. Where you make a big difference is in the first 6 years of life. And that is where we need to concentrate on improving care, in my opinion. Some other advantages of the registry, and having a registry has opened up many opportunities to collaborate with international researchers. It's provided us with a very strong leverage when approaching and starting talks with Vertex and other pharmaceuticals. And one of the other advantages of the registry is we have participated in an international group. For example, when COVID emerged, is now a big group which I belong to, which has ongoing monitoring of the impact on COVID on CF and CF care. And South Africa has been contributing data, and we've already learned how that COVID is really a risk for those who are older, who have diabetes, have very low lung function, 40%, and have had lung transplant. And the data monitoring is ongoing. And for South Africa, we've so far, as I mentioned earlier, we've now recorded 33 confirmed cases of COVID in people with CF, 12 which were children, and there were sadly 2 deaths related directly to COVID in adults. So not an insignificant infection in people with CF, and it really supports that everyone with CF should be vaccinated. So let's move on to what I'm sure most of you would want to hear is where are we with modulators in South Africa? Before we discuss that, I just want to mention what we're talking about. And there really are only 2 that we should be bothering about. Obviously, the first is the Trikafta, or there are various generics, Trikafta or Trikafta, which is in Europe, it's all the same thing. And this is really for anyone from 6 years of age at the moment who has 1 or 2 copies of Delta 5 or 8 gene. You would be eligible for Trikafta. The other one, which has been around a bit longer, is called Trikafta, or the trade name Kaleidoco. There are other also generics available. This was the very first modulator, but it had initially very limited use for people only with this G551D mutation. However, its indications, and it has expanded to include a whole lot of other mutations, mostly some of the milder forms like this A4551E, which is quite common in South Africans. But it's because it's been around much longer, the licensing is already from 6 months of age for where it's available. So these are the other two. These are the main two that we should be focusing our attention on, because the others that in between, I think, are not worth pursuing because the results from the results are not as great. So if we look at, this is a table where we looked at, based on the registry, the genes in people with CF in South Africa, broken down by most frequent to the top 10. And here you can see Delta F508, definitely in terms of number of genes, it's certainly the most common. The second one is 3120, we so-called African gene. We see it more frequently in people with mixed race or Black Africans, and so forth. And you can see as we go down the list, how the proportion. So most genes are quite rare, but the vast majority, the top three, form the bulk. And if you look at, based on current eligibility, who would be eligible, high numbers, 85, nearly 86% would be eligible for one form of modulated treatment or another. So why the delay? What's the problem? I'm sure most of you were all familiar that, first of all, these drugs are not registered in South Africa, and the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, or SAHPRA, which was the old Medicines Control Council, is the regulatory body which any medicine must be approved. It's been dispensed in South Africa, has to be approved through them. But it's really, the onus is on the pharmaceutical companies, etc., to register the drugs. And the registration is a long process. Of course, the biggest obstacle is the cost in South Africa, both for medical aids and government, is just exorbitant costing that our South Africa cannot afford at the current asking prices. The other complication is Vertex holds a patent to these drugs. In other words, generic options cannot be manufactured while they hold a patent, and they're cannot be distributed. And so there's no competition to the pricing structure. And as South Africa is not seen by Vertex and other pharmaceuticals as a lucrative market. Although we're 500 people, not everyone is on medical aid, and so there's no profit in it for them, basically. And we have very two-tiered healthcare system, private healthcare and the public healthcare, and there isn't much coordination in terms of medicines control between the two. So these are the challenges, partly why we don't have these treatments yet. But what has been done, and I'm very pleased to have been part of the New Frontiers Committee, for members, a very passionate group who have been doing amazing work and in keeping up the pressure and sharing information. A very effective team, I must say. And there has been, I think, on a positive note, there has been ongoing dialogue with ourselves, with Vertex. We have a line of communication that is, we've had several meetings, and I think that's important. And one of the things that come emerging from those meetings is, and that South Africa we've put our hand up, and it has been noted. And the Vertex Save Us campaign, which some of you might be familiar with, and if you don't, I really encourage everyone to support it, because it really has been a key factor in making South Africa heard and bringing Vertex to the negotiating table. So we are now, we have been told South Africa is a priority, We just haven't yet seen the proof of that. What about the generic options? You would all no doubt have heard of the Argentinian options, generic options. Why can Argentina produce it and no one else? Well, Argentina has basically not subscribed to an international patent treaty, which South Africa has signed. So doing that we have to respect international patent law, which unfortunately ties our hands somewhat. However, the New Frontiers Committee is exploring and constantly exploring ways of how we can import these drugs legally, ideally without infringing on patent laws. And that has involved consulting with patent lawyers and getting legal advice. The next big hurdle is really price negotiations, and that really is between the pharmaceutical company and the distributor and the funder. So if it's medical aids with government, and one of the problems with South Africa is there isn't a single person to negotiate prices with, which I think is which somewhat delaying the process, because Rotex don't really know who to approach, and the idea of approaching different people with different price structures is not something that I think they are keen to pursue. We are seeking legal opinion, and the option of a legal challenge to the patent if negotiations don't progress or falter. And I think South Africa has a very strong legal framework, which I think is worth pursuing. And certainly we have been looking at that. And even though we can import the drugs now, today, if you want, so the Section 21 process, which is, there are many unregistered drugs which are supplied to patients in South Africa that are simply not registered, especially for rare diseases. So there is the mechanism to import it, and get approval. It's just really the cost, which is the main factor, in my opinion, that is preventing things. And lastly, I just wanted to share this slide, and there has been a lot of there are people who have been fortunate enough to source some modulator drugs as we speak, who might be starting treatment, and that's very exciting. I think we have to start somewhere, but I just want to make an appeal that it is key to that we document and monitor everything. And this is just to show, especially if we're going to be using generic drugs. I share this as a graph looking at sweat test. Now, the sweat test is really a very good measure of how CF affects the body. The higher the sweat salt, this chloride, the worse the CF. So measuring the sweat salt in the sweat test it tells you how much your body is responding to the drugs. And what we know from the clinical trials on these drugs is they've monitored sweat tests in people who started the drugs. And you can see a almost 50% reduction in the sweat salt level within 4 weeks. And I have been told through colleagues that they can see a difference already within 6 hours. So I really would like to just put an appeal out there to people who, if you are going to be starting any form of treatment, please get in contact with your doctor or me or someone on the Frontiers Committee so that we can organize that. We do your sweat test before, your sweat test and lung function before and after you start treatment, because if we can document a few people and demonstrate that their sweat chloride has improved with generic drugs, it gives us a lot of ammunition and leverage to pursue those options going forward. So I just want to, again, end off my talk to say we've had a very dynamic community whose voices are very loud on the world stage for activism, and I would encourage you to keep it up, because I do believe it has impact and it will eventually get us where we want to be. So thank you very much, everyone, and I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, you're on.
Marco?
Yes.
We had one question going back to the registry. Somebody asked, how do you get the COVID results? They just felt that the COVID numbers that you'd picked up seemed very low. I thought maybe you could just...
Yes, so it has really just been word of mouth. We've asked all the doctors if any of their patients who were COVID, please to let us know, and they've passed it on to us. But if anyone has had COVID and would like to check if that's been recorded, you're welcome to please just email me or send me a message, contact me and let us know. We certainly would like to include as many people as possible, because what we don't know and what we're still monitoring is what is the short, medium and long-term effects of COVID on people with CF in terms of, say, lung function or nutrition. And so there is still some ongoing monitoring needed, and it would the more the merrier. And I would, if anyone would like, who has had COVID and I'm not sure they've been included, please do contact me.
Marco, we've got a question here from Angus Rowland. He wants to know if there's a permanent benefit from taking Trikafta. Is there a lasting benefit to a limited course of Trikafta?
That's a good question, and I don't think anyone knows. There is certainly internationally looking at people looking at taking drug holidays, so taking a break, to see what effect that might be, both in terms of limiting the drug exposure as well as, is it harmful long term? I think the jury is still out on that, but it certainly would be the natural sort of next step once you're on treatment, because the idea of being on lifelong therapy of anything is never sounds good, and it usually isn't very good. And I think the field is evolving so rapidly that I think that may be answered in a few years' time.
Okay, we have another question here from Katja Ludovic. She wants to know, she's recently moved overseas from South Africa to get Trikafta. She wants to know, would her lung function and sweat test data be beneficial to you?
Yes, as she received Trikafta overseas, I'm sure her information would be in the registry, and yes, it would be useful to us, and I would be welcome to contact me. Perhaps Alan, you can share my email, maybe after this. I don't mind. If anyone, okay. Yes, it will be helpful to us, because we need to keep track of who's going on to what treatment and what effects will be, and so we can compare as well. For example, if we have a group of people who are on the original Trikafta versus generic, and we can show that they're comparable, that will be very useful as well, as an example. Yeah.
I also thought maybe we probably have some doctors here, some doctors who treat CF patients. Is there anybody? I think Dr. Elsa, are you present? Would you like to say anything at this time? Because I noticed you have made a few comments in the chat box. Would you like to add to the discussion?
Hi, Alan. Yes, I've got one patient who's been on Trikafta. She's a US citizen, so she's fortunate to have gotten Trikafta last year, March, I think we started, and she's only been admitted once subsequently. Her lung function is basically in the 90s, where it was close to the 60s. We haven't done a sweat test on her, so that's something we could probably do. She's been followed up by the US group, so we do Zoom meetings with them. And recently, she's actually had a lot of improvement with her gut. So she thinks she's using a little bit less Creon. So now there's so many benefits regarding these drugs. So yeah, I think it's really the work that Marco and the other guys are doing with the New Frontiers is very important. And the only thing I can tell the patients is work hard and keep yourself healthy, because it's going to come. And you want to be healthy, because once you get Trikafta, you can't sit with a lung function of 40% and then have bronchiectasis. I mean, it will help you, but it's so much better to have a lung function of 60% and start it, or 80% or 90%. I mean, we know they're busy doing research in the age groups from 2 to 6 on for Trikafta, you know. So I think, you know, just be positive, work hard, you know, put your head on the block and just commit and try your best, because the drugs are around the corner, and that's the important thing. And then otherwise, yeah, just thanks for everybody who's joined the registry, because I think if it wasn't for the patients, we wouldn't have this information.
Okay. Thanks, Carla. There's a question from Leila Poonen. She knows of a person who was diagnosed in Swaziland, and she's the only one at the moment who's been diagnosed in Swaziland. Wanted to know, could she be added to our registry? Could we expand our registry to include people outside of South Africa?
Thanks, Leila. Yes, that is, I actually am aware of the individual. We did try and reach out, but we couldn't get information. I mean,
she's in India at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, so this is, although it's a South African registry, I think it would be, the sort of goal really is to make it a sort of a Southern African registry. I mean, we included in there some people from Namibia. I think the problem is outside South Africa, diagnosis of CF is still not even a thing. So it remains a challenge for that, but certainly we're not restricted by borders, I think, anywhere in the region, because I think we face similar issues regardless. So yes, we'd be very happy. We'd be happy to include such a person, but we'd need their doctor and that to be able to share the information, which is often the obstacle.
Okay, thanks, Marco. There was another question here, which I think perhaps Belinda might be in a better position to answer this question, because I know she has been involved also with Dr. Baird as well in looking at some of these cases of families bringing the generic into South Africa. The question was from Nick de Groot, and he wanted to know, is the only option to get generics currently to travel to Argentina every 3 months and pay $25,000? In brackets, not sure if that's the latest figure. Would you like to answer that, Belinda?
Sure thing, I can answer that indeed, but my video is not off, and I like to see myself talking to everybody. No, I'm joking. Okay, so currently with Vertex Save Us and the CF Buyers Club, which I'm an advocate for, the cost for Trikafta equates with the pharmacy cost involved with that. It equates to $40,000 per year. So that's roughly $3,333 a month. Okay. So we are looking at options of importing it into the country via the certain legal processes, as well as other options. There's no issue in getting a Section 21 approval because most Section 21 approvals state if it's an overseas drug, you need to put in a distributor's details. You can put down your treating doctor's details, and you have to physically go and collect. However, Marinda Pretorius, my best friend, she has actually left today to go to Argentina for her 3 months of Trikafta for her son and 3 months of Trikafta for my sister. Now, Marinda's managed to negotiate with Discovery, because it's a generic, that Discovery will pay her or cover 50% of the 3 month supply. And as soon as all the case studies have been completed and we provide them with proof that the drug does work and it does help, then Discovery is going to relook at the funding model, and they might increase the funding model to 80 to 100%, depending on the results. So then the issue, which will, with all the legalities, will just be to bring it into the country directly. So Discovery's on board. We have to get the other medical aids on board. Does
And
that
government.
answer the question?
It does. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, great stuff.
We just sort of
Alan, if I may say something.
sure.
I think we need to. I mean, there's definitely slow movement, progress in the right direction. I think I honestly do feel that unless Vertex show some sort of remarkable what's the word, charity, which I doubt very much, I really think that we have to seriously pursue the how to legally challenge that patent. And I think as a community and people here and the CF Association should really play a critical role in that. And it might require, as you know, seeking legal opinion and challenging that, because the cost of what Vertex are currently, it's just simply not affordable, even for medical aids and long term. We're not dealing with like a 6-month treatment course here. We're dealing with lifelong treatment, which is the difficulty. But I think we will get there, and I am optimistic that we will get there.
Yeah, I think I'd like to just add to that, Marco, that I can see in the near future that we would have to raise quite big amounts of money in SACFA to cover legal action that might need to be taken. And I think as time goes on, we'll make people aware of that. And I'm just asking people if you could please support any fundraising efforts of that nature, because it's critical in order to be able to get the access to the generics.
I've got some more questions regarding discovery. Would it help if all Discovery members get the drugs so we can get more data on the progress? Currently, Discovery is only funding 50%, right? Until they get the results, which the desired results. And then obviously we can all apply, because then we will have feedback from Discovery and a commitment from Discovery, and exactly how much it's going to cost them and cost us out of our pocket if we need to do co-payments. There isn't any risks associated to flying to Argentina and bringing in the drugs ourselves. That's what Miranda's doing for me. We got the Section 21 application, the doctor scripts. We've got the leaflet insert for Trikafta, as well as other information supplied by Gaydor in order to get the SAPRA approval. SAPRA approval lasts for 6 months, and you can bring in between 3 to 6 months supply at a time. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, there was another question about the side effects of Trikafta and how much of a problem this is. And one would particularly want to look at that in terms of maybe a CF patient who's relatively healthy. Well, would you want them to subject them to those sort of side effects if they're doing okay?
Perhaps I can answer that, Alan.
Yeah, please, Marcos.
Yeah, of course, no, there's no drug without side effects, and some of the side effects with Trikafta include some serious liver complications, inflammation in liver, which has forced some people to stop. It can also sometimes make cough worse, ironically. So there are side effects, and some people have had to stop it. The question about when to start it. Now, if you're relatively healthy, sure, it's a balance between do you hold off, or when is the right time to start? Now, the problem with the general sort of, I think, opinion is the sooner you start, the better, so that you can prevent any sort of deterioration in lung function, in health. There was also, and there's emerging evidence that the sooner it started, there's potential to reverse some things. Like I see there was a question about diabetes, and definitely there's a lot of evidence emerging that people who have had an insulin, their insulin requirements have reduced, and some have stopped the insulin. And now even when treatment is started, even young babies, some are even coming off enzymes. That's how incredible it is. Yeah, I think the challenge is when you start treatment, you obviously want to prioritize those who need it the most, and so you often it becomes a balance between giving it to those who need it more urgently versus those who don't, and it really is a supply and demand thing. And so, but I think ideally everyone should be on it, regardless whether you're healthy or not, to prevent deterioration in health, which is irreversible.
Carla's raised her hand. I don't know if she wants to say something.
Carla, did you want to respond to a question?
I just want to add to Marco's point is that unfortunately, the people must also remember, if you do go on Trikafta, it doesn't mean you stop doing physio. It doesn't mean you stop doing your visits. It doesn't mean you still have to have IVs, especially obviously how more severe you are affected. So it's not a quick fix, and it's not a complete fix, especially for the more severely affected patients.
No, that's a good point. We're getting quite a lot of small questions coming in, and I think it's this could go on for quite some time. But what I suggest is let's just focus on the sort of ones that seem to be the most important at the moment. And perhaps what we could say is, if there are any questions that haven't been answered, because I don't think we're going to be able to answer all of them, particularly the small questions that are quite, some of them are quite detailed answers. You can contact me, and then I could send the question to Dr. Zampoli or one of the other doctors to answer. So I think that's a suggestion, that we can't actually go on with the questions for too much longer because they just keep pouring in. Let me just find the one I had one. Oh yes, there was a question here. Is there any evidence suggesting that Trikafta can help remove Pseudomonas from the lungs? Makes sense in theory. Marco, would you like to respond to that?
I'm not aware of any sort of clear evidence specifically looking at reversing Pseudomonas, but there is improvement, that there is evidence that Trikafta started early preserves lung function and the complications that happen. So, and one of them being is acquiring Pseudomonas. Unfortunately, I think once you have acquired Pseudomonas and it's permanent, it's very difficult to clear it for good. So prevention is, again, preventing that is probably still, it remains still very important. I think probably you'll find with time that people will be acquiring Pseudomonas much later in life, or less frequently. I don't know, probably less frequently, because what Trikafta does is it changes the basic structure of the mucus as well. It changes, and so that also is a less favorable environment for Pseudomonas to grow. So I think it will probably turn out that it will prevent acquiring Pseudomonas in the first place. But unfortunately, once you've acquired it, I think it will be quite hard to clear it, reverse completely. So yes, I'll be happy to. I must disclaim here, I'm no expert on Trikafta. I'm just sharing knowledge that I have gleaned through what I have read and what I've heard. And if anyone, more than welcome to try and answer questions offline if people would want to approach us.
There's a question here which I think will be fairly quick to answer. It was somebody went on, now it's just moving away from me. Is Trikafta specifically only for people with certain mutations?
Yes, Trikafta is only for people who have 1 or 2 copies of the DEL508 mutation, which is the majority of people. But as long as you have 1 copy, you would be eligible now.
Okay, I think
So unfortunately, there are some people who wouldn't qualify based on their mutations. There is a lot of research going on looking at those, but it's going to be a while still before similar treatment is available for them.
Okay, I think we have to draw this to a close, and I think anybody who feels that we haven't resolved either their question or some information that they've provided to us through the chat box, it's actually been very difficult because there's so many items in the chat box. But you're welcome to send a message through to me, email or WhatsApp me. It's fine. Yeah.
Alan, people are requesting my contact details. I'm more than willing to give out my email address and cell phone number for WhatsApps. I do work during the day, but it's easiest to work with WhatsApp, so I can get through the messages timelessly. So I'm very happy to share my number.
Okay. Are you able to share it from your side, or?
Yeah, I'm going to do it now.
You're going to do it now. Okay. Yes, I would encourage people to speak to Belinda if they have detailed questions on bringing the generics in and the legal aspects and the patents and all that sort of thing. Belinda's got a wealth of knowledge, and she's one of the key members of our Cystic Fibrosis New Frontiers Committee. So I think at this stage, I just want to thank Marco very much for giving up of his time to do such interesting presentation on both the registry and also on the future for these new drugs. What I'd like to mention is, just while I'm thinking about it, is that once the registry report has been issued, it will be put on the website. So if people want to look at more detail and spend more time looking at all the stats, they will find it on the actual website. But yeah, thanks very much, Marco. And I think you're doing a fantastic job on the Cystic Fibrosis New Frontiers Committee in assisting.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yay.
And I just sorry, Marco, do you want to say something?
No, thank you. Alan, I just wanted to say thank you to you and the SACFA and really to everyone, the CF community, for supporting us. And I feel that there's momentum that is starting, and I really would encourage us to, I would strongly believe that SACFA should unite. I voted for a national body because I think we're stronger as one, and instead of trying to fight at different ends. And I would really encourage everyone to work towards that goal. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I'd like to just say something from my side. I'm also a member of the Cystic Fibrosis New Frontiers Committee, and I agree with what Marco had to say earlier, that we've got a fantastic group of people on that committee, people from different backgrounds, people with different knowledge, but they're all extremely motivated. And I know that for the public out there, we send little report backs of what's happening with the Cystic Fibrosis New Frontiers Committee, and they wonder, well, this doesn't sound very much like progress. But what's been happening has been very small bits of progress, especially with Vertex. But I do feel now we're making a breakthrough. There is a breakthrough. It's going to come to a point where we have to decide which is the route we're going to take. And I can assure you that SACFA, with the help of everybody out there who's prepared to hopefully help us with our fundraising, we will make sure that we do whatever has to be done on the legal front to sort out the whole patent issue and to make sure that we can get those generics into South Africa. So you don't have to worry. We're working on it, spending a lot of time focusing on it. And I think next year is going to be a big year on this front. Yeah, I think we're drawing to a close in the meeting. And as I say, please, anybody who still has anything outstanding, it's been extremely difficult to field all the questions, but we don't want to lose out on questions that people feel still need to be answered. So please don't hesitate to contact us. Anything else? I think that's about it. I think the evening is getting quite late, so everybody wants to go and enjoy what's left of the evening, watch a bit of TV. But thanks everybody. It was a fantastic turnout. The numbers were, what did it come to, Claire? It was close to 100. So that's amazing, really. It was a really great turnout, and hopefully we can have meetings of this nature in the future again. Thank you very much. and good night.
With the entire South African cystic fibrosis community. Yeah,
Yeah, we do need to have more meetings where we include everybody. It's great to have the whole CF community together.
Yes.
Okay, cheers everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Where the snacks?
Yeah.
Oh, no, okay. Bye, Alan.
Bye,
Do you still want me to stay on, Alan, or would you like me to leave?
Belinda, I'll have to think about it.
Because I can entertain you all night with my singing.
Then I'm staying on for sure, Belinda. You can sing Raina to sleep for me.
No, it's fine.
One thing I know is that, Belinda, at our next fundraiser, charity night, you're going to be the entertainer there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Bring it up. Stand-up
sure.
comedy is one of my
Karaoke.
qualities. Be afraid, people, and keep away from fire. Keep me away from fire.
And I've seen her dance. She dances pretty well.
Thank you very much. And it begs the question, why am I still single with all this talent? No, I'm joking.
They're all too good for you, Belinda.
I know, I know.
Cool, guys. Have an awesome evening. Thank you.
All right, Alan, I shall catch up with you tomorrow.
Yes, Belinda, thanks for participating in the question answering. It was really good of you to do that.
It's only a pleasure. The more people that know and the more people that are well informed, the quicker things get done.
Yes, no, definitely. Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'm going to love and leave you now. Goodbye.
Bye. Just end it, yeah.